What is going on, party people? Greg Jenkins coming to you from the Monkeypod worldwide headquarters, rocking what is turning out to be a pretty strong quarantine fro. And I just finished adding 2 elements to the IS starter kit that I think are kind of cool and might be valuable for you, so I wanted to share the process here. So basically, I have been rebuilding and will be relaunching the IS starter kit. Stay tuned for that. But in the course of rebuilding it, I wanted to add the ability for me to track how long it takes somebody to complete the course. So when they start the course, they get a tag. When they finish the course, they get a tag. And I wanted to know how many days transpired or took place in between those 2 tags. That's the part 1 of this video. The second part is when somebody completes the course, I wanted to automatically generate a certificate for them. So I point that out because the video I'm about to show you does both of these things. But number 1, they're not mutually exclusive. They are mutually exclusive. They can be valuable independently. You don't have to do both, right? So you could decide to set up a certificate and not track the amount of time in between, or vice versa, right? You don't have to do both of these, is what I'm saying. And the second thing is that this was specifically for one of my courses, but you could use this same process to track any 2 milestones that are important to you. So if you wanted to track how long it takes for somebody to go from joining your database to becoming a customer, this same process would work for that. Or if you wanted to track how long it takes somebody from signing up for your blog to becoming a member, right? This same process would work to track that as well. So let's jump into the software and I will show you how you can do one or both of these. Okay, so before we jump into the campaign builder and start setting up all the automation that will make this happen, I wanted to run through the setup that I have done to prepare for this. So you're going to need, well, I needed 3 tags, 2 of which I already had, and then I created a new tag, and I also needed 2 custom fields. So let me talk you through those just in case you need the same thing. So I needed a tag when somebody first gets the IS starter kit, when it's first unlocked for them. That's sort of the starting benchmark of them beginning the course. And then I also needed a tag when somebody completes the IS starter kit. So I'm going to use PlusThis to measure the time between those 2 tags. That'll tell us how long it took them to go through the course. So I actually already had those 2 tags. Those already existed. When somebody buys the course, I have a tag that gets applied to them that is actually unlocking the course content in my membership area. I use Access Ally, which connects back to Infusionsoft, uses tags for permissions. But Access Ally also includes Progress Ally, which gives me like e-learning tools that I can use to give them objectives that they can check off. So the first tag, unlocked starter kit or starter kit access tag, is applied automatically when somebody buys the IS starter kit. The second tag, starter kit completed, is applied when they check all of these objectives. So as they work through the course and they complete each section, when this reaches 100%, they'll get the second tag. So those are the 2 tags that I already had created. The custom field that I created for this is a whole number field, and it's called course duration. And I use that to just store the number of days. So PlusThis will calculate how many days between the 2 tags, and then it's going to pop it into that custom field called course duration, so I can report on it or merge it into notes or emails, etc. Right? The third tag that I created is certificate ready. So when we go to create their certificate, so once they've completed the course, we're going to generate their certificate, and a Zap is going to connect to Google Sheets, and it'll make a certificate using a Google Sheet template that I have produced, and it'll spit out a PDF, which is their actual certificate. So in order to give them that certificate, I have to store that PDF URL in a custom field. So I created a custom field called certificate URL, and then in order to tell Infusionsoft that Zap has done its job, we will apply a tag saying certificate ready, and that's what will trigger the delivery of the certificate. So let's jump into Infusionsoft. I've got a brand new campaign here specifically for this, IS Starter Kit reporting and certificate. So it's going to begin when somebody gets that starter kit, and then I think it's starter kit completed. Yeah, there it is. So starter kit completed tag. So once they finish the course, that's when this process kicks off. Remember, they will have already been going through the course, and they will have already had access to the course, but we're going to use PlusThis to retroactively count the number of days between that first tag and that second tag. So we've got a sequence here for count course duration. Let's jump into PlusThis, and I'm going to add a new tool here. So PlusThis has a feature specifically called Calculate Time Between Events, and it's designed just for this use case. Now that I'm saying this, I realize I probably could use Zapier for this one as well, but because PlusThis has it built for this functionality, I just find it a little bit more intuitive. But if you don't have PlusThis and do have Zapier, maybe you could accomplish the same thing with Zapier. So event one, there's a handful of options here, but I'm gonna say the date a tag was applied, and which tag, I'll find it here. Actually, it's right there. IS Starter Kit has access, and then event two is going to be the date a tag was applied, and this time it'll be Starter Kit completed. There it is. Yeah, and then time zone. I'm not sure that time zone matters as long as it is consistent, so I'm just going to choose my time zone here. And then where should we store the results? So it's going to spit out the number of days between these two tags, and I want to store that into, I believe it's a custom field I've created. I think I called it course duration. There it is. Then you've got a couple of options here for the type of unit you want to store. So whether it's years, weeks, days, or hours or months. And then if you do want to allow a negative result, like I know these tags are always going to be applied in this order. You can't finish the course before you start it, so I don't need a negative result. But if you were tracking like, the time between somebody joining your blog subscriber list and becoming a customer, well, they might become a customer before they become a blog subscriber. So in some circumstances, you might want a negative number. And then whether you want to round this up or down, yeah, I'm just going to choose round up. So let's call this IS Starter Kit course duration. And once you click save, it's going to give you a URL that you're going to use to trigger this PlusThis feature. So the way PlusThis works is all of their tools are triggered via an HTTP post. So back in our campaign here, this is going to begin when they finish their the course, when they get that tag from Access Ally indicating they've checked off all the boxes. And then in the next sequence, we are going to start the PlusThis feature. So count course duration, and then I'll just put PlusThis in parentheses so that I know what's happening here. And the cool thing about PlusThis is all you really need to send is the contact ID. So contact ID, and you got the merge field there. It's already pre-populated, and then PlusThis is gonna look up the information it needs using what I just configured in PlusThis. So that's it for that feature. If that's all I was doing here, I could set this as ready. And then I could, set up a report that searches for people who have a value in that field. And I could, keep a saved search on my dashboard that shows me the average number of days it takes for people to go through that course, right? And maybe that's all you need. But for this scenario here, I'm going to also create a certificate for people. So we're going to, actually, let's do a second sequence. I'll show you why, because I already have a certificate set up for my IS 101 course and my Marketing Automation 101 course. So let's do create starter kit certificate. And then I'm going to show you a trick here that you can copy the sequence setup from a different sequence in a different campaign. So I'm going to jump to my IS 101 campaign, and there should be a sequence called like create certificate. There it is. And so that brings in, yeah, I actually had the course speed one set up as well. That's the same thing, course duration. And then we're going to trigger our certificate URL. And then we just need to change the post. So this is using a specific Zap, and this is the information that we're sending. So we're going to update that. But in order to configure this, I need to start a new Zap. So you can see I've got a folder here, my Zapier account for certificates. And over on the right, I've created two Zaps that are generating certificates for my Marketing Automation 101 course and my Infusionsoft 101 course. So you could build from scratch. Ultimately, you will do that. But to save us a little bit of time, I'm just going to copy one of these. And I'll walk you through each of the steps so you know exactly what needs to take place in order to do that. So let's open up the copy here. First thing I'm going to do is rename it. So instead of the word copy, we're just going to call it create IS starter kit certificate. And then it starts with an HTTP catch hook. So you would choose webhooks by Zapier, catch hook, and then it should give you a URL that you'll use. So let's copy that. And then in Infusionsoft, that is the destination we are posting to. So the way an HTTP post works is, it allows two systems to pass information by setting up a URL on one end and then sending a post from the other, and then the URL on the receiving end catches the information, the fields and values that we send, and then it can do whatever with it, right? It's a pretty flexible tool, but Zapier allows us to format the actions without having to write code for it. So let's do that here. And then it's going to look for a test here, right? So this is using the information from my previous test, but what we actually want to do is test it with our own IS starter kit with our own details. So I'm going to leave this set up here because this is how we will want it to be set up for the actual live version with the merge fields. But here's my best practice. When you're testing like a Zapier HTTP post, I just create a duplicate of it. And then I replace the merge fields with like 1, 2, 3, and Greg Jenkins, and admin at monkeypodmarketing.com. Actually, we're going to need I realized we're going to need a real contact ID here. So I've pulled up Ron Swanson, who is the contact that has admin at monkeypodmarketing.com. And his contact ID is 15583. You can see it here in the URL, as well as in the lower left-hand corner when I hover over his name. So 15583. Let's do 15583. And what that does is it just lets me send a test post to Zapier, so I can test that, and that way it'll use the information we have here for the remainder of the Zap. So I can say, let's load more. There we go. And there's request B, and it should have, Greg Jenkins, admin at, and I could have used the name Ron Swanson, but I'm just hard coding it so we have details to populate the rest of this process. So step number 1 in the Zap is the catch hook, which allows us to catch information sent from an HTTP post. And then the next thing we want to do is create a presentation from a template in Google Slides. So in order to do this, I set up a Google slide, and this is what I wanted my template to look like. Obviously, you can build yours to look look however you like. And then this is the key. This took me a while to figure out, but you just need to put, bracketed, curly brackets around the variables that you want to merge in. So I'm only merging in their name and the course. And I was like looking for a set of merge fields, but the truth is you just create them. You just literally will add, a text thing and then say curly, curly, something, curly, curly, and then just by having that in your template, Zapier realizes, hey, those are values we need to change, okay, or we want to populate. So when I go to configure the presentation, right, I would choose my Google Slides account, create presentation from template. I would choose my Monkeypod Google Slides account. Obviously, most people have more than one Google account, but I'm choosing from the Monkeypod one, and then you customize your presentation. So you're going to name what the output is going to be, right? So I just type in Monkeypod certificate and then the actual contact's name. And then maybe I would even add, IS kit. So if they have multiple certificates created, I know specifically this is the one for the IS starter kit. Shared, I'm not sure that this matters, but I'm going to leave that as true. And then this is the template that you want to start from. So the one I just showed you guys, this bad boy is called MP Cert Test, and then right here, MP Cert Test. And then these variables, name and course, it pulls in from name and course. So that was the tricky part for setting this up. I didn't realize that at first, and those variables only exist if they're in the template with those curly brackets around them. And then we want to fill in, using information that was provided in the catch hook. We're going to send the contact name to the name field, and the course name, is going to be part of what was sent in the HTTP post. And once you have your merge fields in place there, you want to do a test. So this is a month ago from the last time I set this up. So I'm going to do retest and continue. And it should take just a second to process, and it's going to spit out like a bunch of information, all of the various fields and settings that are created as a result. So this was just whipped up for us. And at the very bottom of this, if we scroll, all the way down to the bottom, there's a set of like different output types, and one of them is a PDF. So right here, this is the URL that we're ultimately going to end up using. If you want to test it, you can open like a new tab, and there it is. Boom. So Greg Jenkins IS Starter Kit, looks like it worked. That's the URL we're going to give people in order to download this. Yeah, so we've got what we need from the test perspective. And then we could just jump straight to updating Infusionsoft, and that would be that. But I added 2 more steps in here to keep my Google Drive organized. So this step is to locate the file, and then this step is to move the file into a specific folder. So this is optional, but you would choose Google Drive, find a file, choose account, Greg at Monkeypod Marketing, customize file. So we would search based on the previous step for that specific file. And then that's all you need here. So yep, did we find that file? We did, or it will. Yep, found it. Cool, great, all good. And then we want to move that file. So using the information, you have to first look it up, find file, and then second, move that file. So using the information from the previous step. So from step 3, here we go. Where do we want to put it? I have a folder created called Zapier Certificates. And let's just retest and continue. And that's it for moving it. The final step for this Zap is to update Infusionsoft, to let Infusionsoft know that this is now done. So we choose Infusionsoft by Keep, create, update, contact. Monkeypod I'm connected to a handful of Infusionsoft accounts, but this is the one we want to update. And then in here, we choose the information we want in order to update the contact. So all we really need is the email address. That's what it's going to use to find the contact. So check for duplicates by email. I just leave their opt-in as yes because as a rule, because I don't want it to accidentally opt them out. This is the previous tag from the IS 101 course, so I actually don't want that one. Let's delete that. And what we do want is IS Starter Kit Certificate Ready. So right at the top of my list. And then you don't need to update like their name or any of the other fields about them. We just need to update the certificate URL field. So that's the custom field that I created or that I mentioned at the beginning here, which is somewhere in this area. There it is. And we're going to use that link I mentioned that ends in PDF. So you would choose from this step, from step 2, where this presentation was created. And there's going to be a bunch of values in there. I mentioned that, but at the very bottom of that list is the PDF one, and you'll select it there. And then you can just say continue. And that's it. So your Zap is done. It's ready to be turned on. And the next thing we need to do is jump back into the campaign itself. And we could delete this step. This was just for the test, so we don't need that any longer. And then you can set this up to be, I just use like a 5-minute timer, although it really doesn't matter because they're not going to move on until they get that tag indicating that the Zap ran successfully. So certificate created, and this one is listening for IS, what did I call the tag? IS Starter Kit Certificate Ready. So once you have done that, then the last step here is to send it to them. So I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to apply a note and certificate delivery. There we go. And so this is a personal best practice. I use notes pretty heavily because I find that it's helpful to have like a breadcrumb history on the contact record of things that they have done. So this will be completed IS Starter Kit course, and in here we'll just say history and completed IS Starter Kit course, and then I can say it took them, and I can merge in the duration that they were in there. So course duration, it took them X number of days. Here's the certificate and certificate URL. Whoops, I think I merged it in twice, and I did. And that's it. I merge both of those into a note just so that I always have them, because I also update these fields. I overwrite these fields. So if they start or complete another course, the course duration is only going to hold the value of their most recent course. And then when they do a new course, it'll overwrite that. Same thing for the certificate URL. So that's important because I want to have a record of what these values were. So by merging them into a note, I keep that for historical references so that it can be overwritten. If you didn't want to overwrite these fields, then you would just create a unique field for each of your courses or for each of your certificates. But in order to consolidate or be efficient with my custom field usage, I put those into a note just so I have them. And then we would send them an email, delivering certificate. And I think I can actually copy from the delivery email I have set up in the IS 101 course. So let's copy from campaign. And we'll jump back to IS 101, certificate delivery. I know, you're probably thinking, did Greg really make me a certificate? Yes, use this. Yeah, and that's it. Yep, certificate. And then I would want to just comb over this content and make sure that it all is relevant. Like I think I mentioned for completing the Infusionsoft mini course, so I'll say for completing that IS starter kit course, the answer is yes, I did. Here it is. And then in order to deliver it, I'm linking to the merge field. So contact, certificate, URL. But in another more accurate sense, I didn't. And I actually have a blog post that covers how to create this. As you might be guessing, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so I'm not going to change all the copy during this video, but I will come back in here and I'll update that to make sure that the call to action and the recommendations for what they should do next are current. But that's it. That's how you would build this campaign. You might want to have a conclusion goal, like once they download the certificate, because you could add 2 or 3 reminders if they don't get it. And then as an optional step, I might change this to be like an hour or even a day, and add a fulfillment list. Like if for some reason that Zap fails, I might notify myself and like figure out like, hey, 3 people didn't get their certificate. If they're in this sequence, it means that the Zap didn't process, right? So you could build some redundancies, some fail safes into here. But that is largely what I wanted to cover is number one, measuring the amount of time. And that's valuable on its own. You don't have to do the certificate part. If all you want to do is the course duration, then all you need is that PlusThis feature. But if you want to take it another level and like generate a certificate with Google Slides, I wanted to show you how that was done using Zapier. Okay guys, so hopefully those tricks were valuable. As you saw, I used PlusThis to calculate the time between the 2 tags, but PlusThis has a handful of other milestones that you can use as the benchmarks. It doesn't have to be just tags. And then I used Zapier to connect to Google Slides to produce a PDF certificate that I then merged back into Infusionsoft so that I could deliver it to them, right? Neither of these are necessary, are critical components for launching this course. But I do think that they add a little bit, both for me in terms of insight into how people are consuming it, and also in terms of the experience I'm creating for my customers, being able to deliver a certificate automatically that pats them on the back for having completed the course. Is a nice encouraging or motivating factor, and it might give people reason to share that certificate or to talk about it socially, so that it could create like word of mouth referrals that ultimately start that cycle all over again. So I wanted to highlight both of these tactics in case there are applications within your business where they could be useful. That's it for now. Thanks for watching. If you found this video valuable, give me a comment or a like, or share it with someone who it could serve. Take care. And for those of you who are thinking, Greg, if you're complaining about your afro, then why don't you just cut your hair? The answer is, if I cut my hair, then how would we measure how long we've been in quarantine? Answer me that.